What's up, Earth Animals? Welcome to Ask Our Vet. After a week off, sorry about last week, we actually had some power issues. If you live locally, you know that we had a pretty good storm come through here and knock the power out really on a lot of the areas. So we had a lot of technical difficulties, so we missed a week. It's good to be back, good to be with you. I hope everyone is doing well. We started with a little Eyes of the World by the Grateful Dead. I thought fitting. I would have done it last week, but we did not meet last week. Last week, as you know, was the anniversary of Jerry Garcia's death, 25 years, August 9th, 1995. So I wanted to just kind of honor them, and I think both our songs, both are coming in and going out today, are going to be the Grateful Dead. I think that's just fitting. All right. Anyway, I hope you guys are all well. Today is the Ask Our Questions. I hope you guys are, have a good amount of questions for me. This is one of my favorite weeks that we do. We do it once a month. So because I just love to talk all different things, I think it's great. We'll start off as we always do with a COVID update, and then we'll get into our questions. We'll do our Earth Animal of the Week, and just remember, pay attention throughout the talk today. At the end, we're going to do a giveaway like we do every week. We're going to do a $100 gift certificate to your favorite independent pet retailer, okay? So it could be on anything that we talk about today. It'll be a simple question quiz at the end, and if first person to answer live on the stream will win the gift certificate, okay? So anyway, let's talk COVID, right? I think, as we do every week since it started, and we've almost been, it's amazing, I think we're in week 19, so we're almost been doing this 5 months now, which is, it's really amazing. And, we do an update every week, and, certainly, and obviously, things have improved since we were doing these early on, but I think it's important that we keep talking about it. We keep reminding ourselves that we're still in this epidemic, this pandemic, and now's not the time to get lax, right? Now's not the time not to wear masks. Now's not the time to not social distance as we go through these various phases to get back to whatever our new normalcy is going to be with this. I think it's really important that we continue to be hyper vigilant about these things. I was reading, as I do every week, I kind of read summary of numbers. They had, unfortunately last Wednesday, I believe 1,500 people passed away nationally. So it is not gone. It is not. There are pockets in the area, like in this area in Connecticut, where the numbers are significantly down. But that is the result of planning. It's the result of social distancing. It's the result of wearing masks. And, when I see something like out in Sturgis this week, it makes me extremely nervous to have so many people descend on one area of the country. A lot of them aren't wearing masks. Then a lot of them are going to be in close-knit, tight circles out there, and then leave there and go back to various parts of the country. And so, if you're not doing these things for yourself, do it for your loved ones. Do it for the elderly in your family. Do it for your kids. Do it for your significant others. I think it's really important that we do this. And I don't want to, I don't want to constantly harp on this, but I do think it's extremely important that we continue doing it. And if you look at the areas like Connecticut that have low numbers, and you look at what they're doing and what they've done and how we've gotten here, it's not a political thing. It's not anything else. It's science, okay? If you cover your face, if you socially distance, you can reduce the spread of this, and we can continue to work towards a vaccine and towards phasing this out and getting back to normal. And the more we all collectively come together on this, the better off we're all going to be, all right? We're all in it together, all right? So I won't say any more about it today. I know I tend to run on about it, but I am passionate about it because I think it's really important, right? Okay, so as we said, today is going to be, it's question day, one of my favorite days that we do. And so we'll talk everything veterinary, whatever's on your mind, we can talk about it. and I'll answer it all to the best of my ability, right? All right, Earth Animal of the Week. One of the things that I do have to say, I know a lot of people that have been on the streams for the past several weeks, the last few before we had the break last week, knew that I was nursing a little fledgling bird. Unfortunately, little Kevin, unfortunately, he did pass away. Okay, so I don't want to depress anybody, but I did want to say that because I had been bringing him on for a couple weeks in a row. He was neurologic, like we talked about, and he went downhill from there. So I think that it did put me in a little bit of a sad state, I will say. It is amazing how attached, when you're an animal person, right, how we all can get to the smallest of things, right? Every life is precious. So, but I did want to put that out there, and certainly with the help of my staff, we did, we just, every 30 minutes feeding, we did everything we can. And, but I wanted to just throw that out there. Okay, more positive stuff. Earth Animal of the Week. So for the Earth Animal of the Week this week, I picked little Wally. So Wally this is a black and white photo because I thought it was a really cool photo. It may be a little difficult to see, but I think you guys can see it. So there's Wally, all right? He is a 15-year-old. He was 15 in April, a little 15-year-old French bulldog who lives with his mom, Stephanie, out in Long Island. And he's had some health issues as of recent that they're working on, and he had some surgery the other day that he has now started to recover from and is doing well. So I wanted two things. He's a great little dog, 15-year-old French bulldog, which is an older Frenchie, right? And still just really tough and really resilient. And I want to wish him the best and wish him well because he's a cool little guy. So Earth Animal of the Week is Wally. There you go. Let's see who's checking in. Oh, thanks, Martha. Yeah, that's a good song, right? That's a good dead tune for sure. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Candace. Hi, Tammy. Thanks for watching. Hey, Sue. Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for watching. Hey, Kitty. Oh, thanks, Gretchen. Yeah, I didn't want to talk too much about it because I do have to tell you it did, unfortunately, it hit me pretty hard. And like I was saying, it's just when you're an animal person, it doesn't matter how small or who they are. We just, we fall in love with them, right? So, let's see. Hey, Angel. Hi, Bethany. Thanks for checking in from New Hampshire. That's great. Oh, Eve, hey, Eve, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while. Thanks for watching. I miss you too. Hopefully I can see you, we can talk soon. All right, so everybody get their questions together. I think the time is start asking. We'll go through them. I think someone just said they had a dental question. Tammy, you have a question on dental care. So whenever you guys want. They like the scruff head? Yeah. Maybe I should go back with the beard, like in the early COVID, right? No, that was a terrible, terrible look. So what is your dental question, Tammy? Hey, Angel, how are you? Thanks for checking in. Stephanie, if you have any update, I think you did say Wally was doing pretty well today. So just if you have an update, that'd be awesome. Hey Dee, thanks for checking in. I saw you earlier, so that's good. Ed, you're going to start a petition for me to grow my beard back, please. We can't do the mask and the beard and out in the. We were actually today was one of those days as a veterinarian that was. And during COVID times, that we're still doing our curbside, right? So today, when you have these thunderstorms that go through, it is, I will tell you, it is challenging when you're outside and it's thundering and lightning and pouring rain. So that's part of the challenge that we're faced with. Thank God they kind of came through quickly today. So, but it was definitely challenging. There was a lot of rain today. All right, Tammy, you have a question. Why is it that there isn't more non-anesthetic dental care for dogs? So, Tammy, that is a great question, and I'll tell you why. All right. One of the things, so when you do a dental prophy on an animal, dog, cat, there's various tools that you use, and any veterinary dentist or any veterinarian will tell you that one of the things that's important is getting the tartar and things. That's something that oftentimes you can't even see that's up under the gum line. Okay. Now, one of the challenges is, and you use an ultrasonic scaler for that to start. You hand scale teeth, ultrasonically scale them. Oftentimes with animals, you don't know maybe that there is a root exposure or a broken tooth or things till you're actually in there and you remove the tartar. You find a lot of things with things like dental x-rays and actually, under anesthesia and while in the middle of a dental, because everything's not always visible. Okay. So while your question is about non-anesthetic, when you're doing the ultrasonic scaling and when you're doing things, the vast majority of animals are not, they don't just sit in the dental chair with the bib on and just sit there, right? It's very difficult. A lot of them don't want you in their mouth. And when you're using a lot of these things, there can be a little bit, obviously of some discomfort with it. So you want them under anesthesia. You want to be able to give them pain medications and things like that. So that's why a lot of dental care has to happen under anesthesia. Now, your question is certainly there are people that do some minor hand scalings. Awake, there's people that will travel around and do that. And for a little minor amount of tartar, to be able to hand scale it off, that can be effective, and it can delay, okay? It can delay the need for a full dental, all right? But what we have to know about it is it's not as comprehensive as a dental. It's not when you really have to do the full-blown dental prophies on these guys. It really does require anesthetics. Also, these ultrasonic scalers are water driven and water cooled, and so you want to have them intubated because you don't want them to aspirate fluid and things like that build up, right? So there is a lot to it, and it does really to truly get to those higher level dentals, you really do need anesthesia. And I know, I realize the good news is obviously now compared to when I got out of veterinary school 25 years ago at this point, but the anesthetic protocols have become so much better. I always say that really veterinary medicine mimics human medicine, just always a little bit behind because you have to develop what the dosages are and things like that. So we use a lot safer anesthetics than they used to use, and induction agents, and more propofols and things that we never ever dreamed of using 15, 20 years ago that become commonplace. So the goal of always when you anesthetize an animal is to have them at a plane of anesthesia where you can perform a procedure on them at the safest possible plane of anesthesia, and that you can wake them up as fast as you can after the procedure. And so a lot of these newer anesthetics are just that. They, things like propofol, they're in their system by the time that you induce them. There's some other parts to that, but then they're on a gas anesthesia. Well, a lot of them towards the end of these procedures, the injectable things that like propofol are already out of their system, so they're just waking up from the gas. So the good news in all that is the protocols have become much safer, okay? So that's a really good question. And so I'm just going to, Candace, I'll get to your question. I'm just jumping because I saw Tammy's. And listen, look, whenever you consider anesthetizing an animal for any reason and any sort of procedure, you have to take the entire picture. Age, health, underlying issues. So you're right. If they're compromised and they have other issues, then maybe that is not the right route for them. You have to take everything into account. How their blood is, what their organ function is, what their level of need of the procedure is. So absolutely, Tammy, I think you have to take all that stuff into account. And certainly not all animals need to be put under anesthesia and have a dental every year. Some do, There is a genetic basis. There's a breed predilection. There's a genetic basis for these things. So you never quite, and again, I know sometimes I sound a bit like a broken record where I say they're all individuals, but they are. Every case is different. You can't lump really any animal into a pool where you say, okay, this pool of animals gets this pool of animals gets. You have to consider the individual animal, the breed that they are, their health condition, what their age is, what the need is, for having to do that. So I think all those things have to come together. I think it's really important, right? That's a great question. All right, Candace, and then I'll go down the line. But Candace, Bronson usually will hide between the couch and the end of the table per COVID before I leave for work on the weekends, or he would just give up and go in his crate. While I work from home, he started doing the same hiding after our AM walk. I'm sitting down and working and eating my breakfast. Nothing has changed as far as our environment or anything. Not dressed and leave the house when this happens. Is it a concern that he's hiding when I am not leaving the house? He knows I do, so not sure what this means. Another good question. I think, Candace, habits, again, are sometimes tough to break. Bronson's been up until now, they very much get in these, in these routines. So up until now, you've been doing this, obviously for years, right? So he certainly may anticipate it. Sometimes if they're just in that cycle. So no, I'm not concerned about that. I think it probably just anticipates that we're, at some point we're going to go back to what we were doing, because for so long you did the same thing. And so there is some memory on their part, and both muscle memory and brain memory, and they get in that routine. So I don't think that's not concerning. I think but I would, you can definitely talk to them and say, listen, let's take them out of there. Maybe try to, just play with them a little bit, and just try to let them know that that's not what you're doing currently, right? Yeah. So Tammy, there are also, what you can do, Tammy, if you want to, is call me at the office. Okay, there are, and we can have a longer conversation about the possibilities. I do know there are some traveling people doing it as well. So I think that's probably a great thing for you and I have to take offline and have a conversation about. So please, either email me at chris@earthanimal, or you can contact me at Ash Creek Animal Hospital, my office. Either way, and I'd absolutely love to talk to you about it. All right. All right, Sue. Here's the $1 million question, right? How do we pick the best foods for our pups? Kibble, raw, or both? So, couple things on that, right? Huge question. Not easily answered in the sense of in a short time span, but I will give you kind of my thoughts on it. Getting back to the individuals, I don't think that one specific food you can say is best for all animals. I really don't. I think there are times where one may be good for one and it's not good for the other. It depends on so many factors. Again, getting to breed, getting to how sporting versus non-sporting, how they are, how much are they walked? Do they have underlying issues? Do they have allergies? Do they have sensitive stomachs? And we are two things, Sue. One is next week, and I was going to promote this. I'm changing things up a little bit. We're going to talk wisdom next week. I'm going to put that a couple weeks down the road, because I really want to talk about the basis, what kind of eaters are our animals, right? Both dogs and cats, talking omnivores versus carnivores. And I think, that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to bring some of the foods into it next week. So, we're going to do a whole topic on it. But I really don't subscribe to there's one specific diet that they should all be eating. I think it really varies. And so it's very hard it's not a 2-minute conversation when someone asks me what food should I be feeding my animal? It is never a 2-minute conversation now. It's a back and forth, between the owner and the veterinarian. and what your goals are, what the underlying conditions, and really the whole history. So we'll talk about it a bit next week, and hopefully I could shed more light on it for you. And then when we talk about Earth Animals food that is coming out this fall, the wisdom food, I think you'll there's a lot to that. I'm really excited to have that conversation and show you guys. Again, they're producing it now. It's going to be coming out in the fall, and I have one of my dogs on it right now and is doing really well on it and loves it. And I can't wait to talk about it because it really, truly is a very unique and a wonderful food. So, great question. All right, Steph, here's the update on Wally. Feeling a lot better. Yeah, and at this stage, that's what you do. It's all about quality, and with him, and I'm really glad he's feeling better. He certainly is a tough little guy, right? Okay, D, let's see. So question on Pepsid, on acid controller. 10 milligrams an hour before each meal, and she still regurgitates. Am I giving enough? So there, interestingly, there are other things too if we find that that's not working, D. And that's another thing, I want to I'll pick your brain a little bit. We should have a phone call about that. Basically half a mg to a mg per kilogram on the Pepsid. There is, and there sometimes you have to use a different acid controller. Sometimes it's not about the acid controllers. You might switch to something else if you're not seeing them work. So while that is in the zone, that 10 milligrams for we may have to change gears, increase it, or do something else. All right. Okay, Tammy, how do you balance that with worry about the dog going under given the age of the dog? Well, again, there are always risk benefit. You have to do that constantly when you're dealing with anesthesias, when you're dealing with age, when you're dealing with underlying conditions. It's a huge thing. So you always have to see what sort of how bad are the teeth? Are they causing a health concern? Is there something else? Is there a growth on the gum? Is there something else going on? So you always have to look at everything. And sometimes you're right. Sometimes you would hold on doing a procedure if you find that the risks are high and you're not going to get the benefit that you want. I think you always have to weigh all those. All right. And I think it's really important. I think in every one, you have to do it for every single animal that you want to do a procedure with, that again, I know I keep saying it, but they're all different. No two pugs are the same, no two labs are the same, and so no two cats are the same. You always have to balance it, all right, and look at the animal, look at their lab work, look at their age, look at underlying conditions. It's a lot that goes into it, a lot that goes into the decisions. It's not something that you make quickly and without a lot of thought, all right. Yep, Steph, good pain management's key, always. All right, Jen. Rex is a mixed breed, about 28 pounds, and is a little overweight. Our vet wants him at about 25 pounds. We started using EA healthy weight supplement mixed in with raw frozen, and we're cutting down on treats. However, Rex refuses to go on walks. If we get near the leash or harness, he runs and hides under the couch and won't come out. Are there other things we can do to get him more active to help him lose weight? Any tips, tricks to get him to love walks again? So that, this is something I've been having a lot, believe it or not, Jen, the last few months, right? There's been a couple things that have gone on. Some animals have come in and lost weight because they've gone on more walks. I don't know if anybody saw the commercial with the dog that they take it out. It's super excited. I forgot what commercial it is, but super excited to go out the first walk. And then the next family member comes and takes the dog out. And then by the end of the day, the dog doesn't want to go because so many people were walking, right? It's actually a funny commercial. But so some animals I'm seeing, they're losing weight because they're walking more than others. Other animals have gained some weight during this because some of them have gotten afraid about going outside. I have several dogs, because of all the fireworks and the thunderstorms, have gotten afraid to actually go on walks and go outside, because a lot of people were walking at night. And in our area, we had fireworks that started back in like May and have gone through the summer. So they really hypersensitize these animals to sound, right? I think with the question, I think the first thing is to, even if you can do, look, even if you do play inside to start, right? Just like my dog Sadie, who, we run around the backyard, we go on walks, but she still, for her, like if we're sitting in, every time I'm watching TV in the den, she just wants me to keep throwing the ball at her. And even just starting with that, I think any exercise for them is good exercise, right? And so you can slowly build on that. If you can do some inside, you can do some in the backyard. I don't know if you have a fenced-in backyard, or you can go out without the leash. Then you can do other things, like if you're playing in the backyard, you can attach the leash but not use it. Just have it, on them while you're playing, and then kind of build into it. All right, maybe. And I know it sounds crazy, but even like walking them in the safe haven, in the backyard with it, so they realize that it's not a scary proposition. And then, with them, I always recommend slow buildup. Even if you're walking you're walking just in your yard with the leash. I know you probably feel silly walking around it, but it really is. And then you venture a little bit onto the sidewalk, and then you just go halfway up the block. And so you want to build them back. And, I don't know what the underlying reason was that Rex, doesn't want to go on walks. I don't know if it was always or something, there was a noise, I've had animals stop doing that when they've literally, a truck has backfired and they never wanted to go out in the front yard again. So there's a lot to that, and I think usually what you want to do is you just build them up slowly. And remember, when you're feeding animals, and it's very important, when you're feeding animals a food, whatever food it is, for their goal weight, okay? Anything you give outside of their feedings is extra calories, right? So it's like snacking between meals. So you want to always limit treats, okay? I'm not saying don't give treats. I'm saying limit treats. I'm saying, if you normally give a whole one, give a half of one. And, it's just the action. They love getting treats. So they don't necessarily have it's not about the size of the treat. It's not about it's just that they're getting a treat, and they're getting praise. So you can do it as small. I've done the trick with my own, where I've used a little tiny bit of their food in the past just to give them treats. So I have with animals that I had that had allergies or sensitive stomachs, so I wasn't giving them outside to set off their gut. But it's just, so you have to remember, and how and then if we're not getting exercise, then they're not burning any of those extra calories. So I think you just continue to try, start with playing, start with going in the yard, start with doing the leash in the yard, and then try to get outside. I hope that helps. Hey Mel, thanks for tuning in. You're welcome, Tammy, thank you. Sue, how do we pick the best pet insurance? Any suggestions on best companies? All right, so while I can't give you suggestions on best companies, I can tell you how I think ideally you go about it, okay? I do think it's really important to compare several, okay? Compare policies. It's whenever, in this same, health insurance for our pets is like picking health insurance for us. You have to match the insurance with the animal that you have. It's going back to the same thing, how old they are, if they're a puppy, if they're an active dog, if they're, what are the breed predilections for certain diseases, right? And then you have to match with the insurances. You have to look at them and see what you're getting for your premium. They all offer several different premiums. Remember, insurance companies for pets you pay out of pocket, and then you submit, at least for now, you submit the invoice, you submit the medical records, and then they pay, based on that. And there are, it's really important that you do your research with it. and you compare different ones and see what you want to do, what they give you. You know, a lot of insurances can be, you know, for, you know, unfortunately for catastrophic, you know, God forbid, the broken legs or the hit by cars, God forbid, or things like that. So you really want to see, you want to cater your policy to what your goals are at the time, whether you're getting it on a very young puppy and you want, you know, and then you look at things for any, and you look and see what their policies are for routine visits, or if you're getting middle-aged or older dogs and they may have some pre-existing conditions, it's important that you look at how they treat pre-existing conditions, and what pre-existing conditions your animal might have. So there is a lot that goes into it, but it's something that you know, obviously really want to do your research on. Okay. Hey, Marianne, how are you? I hope you're well. Oh, you're so welcome, Tammy, and that's great. Hi to Tidbit. Yeah, Sue, I think next week is going to be next week's going to be fun, and it's a cool conversation, right? All right, Bethany, do you think a dog with bilateral hip dysplasia and 2 torn ACLs should have surgery for the ACLs? And if so, will the good knees make the hips worse? I adopted a golden retriever with these issues, which I was aware of. I'm concerned, let me just open this more, sorry. I'm concerned if I have her knees done, it will make her hips more painful. She does not show signs of pain. I do notice she is getting weaker though, which concerns me. I'm so nervous about what recovery will look like for her. So I've encountered a lot of cases like this, Bethany, right? And so, and it depends on a few things. One, it depends on how bad the hip dysplasia is. And, you know, the challenge for any orthopedic or a veterinarian is, okay, so you see this dog, right? And you know this dog is obviously having trouble on both its back legs, okay? And if they have torn ACLs, right, these, you know, by the way, for everyone, that's an anterior cruciate ligament, right? The cranial cruciate, it's the cruciate that same one that's in our knee that a lot of people tear. It is you see it a lot in veterinary medicine, and it does not take much. This was, you know, unfortunately, this little ligament was a fairly poorly designed ligament. It does a lot to stabilize the knee. It actually goes from the back of the femur in the knee, if you can see, the back of the femur to the front of the tibia and holds the knee from going back and forth, okay? It does a lot, and it's not as hardy as it should be, okay? So somewhere along the line, design-wise, in all the mammals, I don't think it was all that well designed. But and tearing these you know, happens a lot in dogs. And so when you have them with at the same time, you have them with torn ACLs and they have hip dysplasia as well. What you don't know is if they're weak or stiff in the back, how much is coming from their knees and how much is coming from their hips. So it's challenging for a orthopedist or who's going to do the surgery on it to really kind of weigh that. And there's even more that goes into it, right? Which is how you know, a lot of times they like to stagger the knees. Okay, depending, so they do one and then they'll let that heal for several months and then, you know, and then come back and do the other one because it's the good leg to stand on, right? They want to give them a strong leg. But depending on which, you know, if one hip looks worse than the other, if one leg is more lame than the other, they may, I've had them where I've actually had animals tear both their cruciates within a week of one another at the same time that were operated on both knees, okay? And you know, they obviously, you had to help them initially. There was a lot of rehabilitation that went into that. But it's it's really up to the orthopedic, and that's what I would think. I would think you want to have a good orthopedic take a look and give you their opinion on how they think you should handle that. And sometimes, you know, whenever you look at hips and you look at dysplasia, I was just talking with someone about this today. You know, you look at animals' hip sockets, and right, so just like ours, hip socket's a ball and joint, right? So you have the top of the femur comes up, and you have this ball and fits in, and you know, and so when you have dysplasia, you have things like a very shallow cup or a malformed ball, or you have thickening of what they call the neck, right, where at the top. And I have dogs that come in where you x-ray their hips and they're running around without a limp, and you look at their hips and their hips are, you know, radiographically terrible. And at the same time, I have dogs that come in that are limping because of hip, and their hip doesn't look as bad as that, like the other dog that wasn't limping. So there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot of decisions. You have to see which leg is worse. You have to, and you make your decisions based on that. So, but I think the key with that is getting a good orthopedic to look at all the x-rays, to look at all the joints, and then make a decision on kind of the approach. But I understand your hesitation, your nervousness, and I think, but I do think, you know, a good orthopedic surgeon can kind of help you make a decision on that. All right. I hope that helps. Kirsten, is it dangerous to share a spoon with my cat PJ? I always try to be mindful which spoon is his and which is mine, but I always end up getting confused. Okay. So first of all, what I'd like to know, Kirsten, is what your, you know, we've talked about certain, I believe on one of these streams, we've talked about people food and animals and not, so I assume you're probably not sharing cat food on a spoon. So I think the first thing to think about is what you're actually sharing on the spoon. You know, and we want to be careful of giving our pets people food, right? So I think that's the first thing you want to think about, right? See if I made, all right, let's see who's next here. Yeah, Tammy, going back to your fireworks thing, the fireworks, you know, because of COVID and people were stuck in the house and, you know, the old idle hands, right? The fireworks this year was by far the above and beyond phone call wise from people with their animals with anxieties, noise anxieties, because the fireworks, like I said, they started in May and they did not stop. They were nightly. And they weren't just like, you know, the old school like firecrackers and like, you know, bottle rockets, and like they were like full on mortars. I would see, I mean, you would see them in the sky and people blowing off really loud M80s or whatever. So there was a lot of that. And it definitely didn't help our pets, all that constant being barraged by that noise, without a doubt. It really made a lot of them hypersensitive. So I totally agree. All right, Kim, I have a 9-month-old border collie that has been experiencing episodes of Anastacio since Memorial Day. No one can figure out the cause. Could it be just the way she is or possible trauma? She is also itchy, but has a beautiful skin and coat, and we can't get to the bottom of that either. Tried fish oils, Cytopoint, raw diet, dog zymes. Any suggestions? Okay, a couple things, Kim. One is, you know, Anastacio, by the way, is different size pupils, okay? So, you know, obviously when you look at an animal and you look at their eyes, their pupils should be commiserate with one another, right? You shine a light in them and they dilate, or they constrict when you shine the light in them. Sometimes they are different sizes, so, which is Anastacio. And that is, sometimes that, you know, I've had them where you've looked for everything and you haven't found an underlying cause. Is it, can I ask you a question, Kim, and maybe you can answer on this. Is it, are the eyes changing in sizes, or is it one eye that's smaller always than one eye, the pupil smaller than the other one? If you could answer that, that would be great. Sometimes then it may be a single eye issue. But there are things, you know, all of that's controlled by cranial nerve function, and sometimes you can have those things and they will resolve and you don't find the underlying cause. In cats, some breeds of cats and some things that can be a normal finding, but in dogs, yeah, that's you generally don't see that. And when you say episodes, so I want to know one thing: is it one eye that's always constricted more than the other, or does it vary? And the other thing too is when you say episodes, it's not always like that. It kind of comes and goes. So, and also, what area are you're in just kind of area you live? I mean, one of the things that I am finding with the itchiness, all right, locally, believe it or not, is you know, we have a lot, the pollen counts are off the charts. And we see a lot of skin allergies and itchiness, especially this time of year. But recently, over the last couple years, I have been seeing a fairly large, not even fairly, a large uptick in a certain type of mite called Sarcoptes, right? So there's mange, right? There's two types of mange, but the two most common are Sarcoptes and Demodex mange. Sarcoptes are what they call scabies, right? And scabies is very itchy. And it's carried around by foxes, coyotes, and things, and we've seen a large increase in those in our area. And because of that, I have been seeing a large really by a large percentage, a lot more cases of it. And so even my classic kind of allergic dogs that have been allergic every year, all of a sudden, if they're really itchy on a given year, I oftentimes will test them and I'm getting positives. I used to see maybe one of those a year. I'm seeing probably one a week now. So it's always possible. The good news is the way we used to have to find this particular mite is by a skin scraping, and oftentimes you didn't find it because it was very deep in the follicles. Okay. Now there's a simple blood test for it, and it's not expensive. It's $50 or $60, I think. And it can tell within 95% that it is. And, I just had a positive 2 days ago. And like I said, so that may be something to look into. And again, it may not be, but it is something to look into, because if you do find it, now we also have, easy fixes for it. Okay. But it could also be allergies, and sometimes, some are more allergic than others. You can do things like allergy testing. You certainly have tried some great things, with the fish oils, you like omegas, the cider point. But if they're itching through a lot of those, it may be of concern. And like I said, it's something that again, it's easy to do. It's not invasive. It's probably a good thing to check. Okay. You know what, Dee? Maybe we'll check again in a month. All right, let's see. You're welcome, Candace. Thanks for chiming in. Thanks for watching. You know what, Bethany? I certainly can try and help you with that. I don't know one, obviously off the top of my head. However, I do have one of my classmates that does live up in New Hampshire from veterinary school, so I certainly can pick his brain about it. Email me at chris@earthanimal.com, and I will check with him, and maybe we can get you a referral. Okay. So, Kim, what you're asking about vaccinated and with the distemper, while there is no definitive, I would never say never, but I would also say that I think that's probably unlikely. However, like I said, I've had animals where they've had that, and I'm really interested in how often you're seeing it, and you are seeing it in both eyes. Okay, I'm reading down now, so I'll get down there and I'll answer that. Yeah, the other thing, okay, so Elizabeth says, my dog is going crazy with itching this year. I will also tell you that, I don't want to say every itchy dog has mange, because that's simply not true. It's still a small percentage, but we are seeing, this is also a very bad allergy year. The pollen counts have been very high. The grass pollens have been high all summer. We get this, it's been, kind of hazy, hot, and humid with rain and then wind. And so I've had a lot of animals in with these episodes. The classic is chewing the feet. A lot of animals will kind of lick a lot, like they have some itching around their mouth. But the classic is they go out for walks, they come in at night, and they chew their feet because they step in the pollen that's laying all over, and it becomes a contact allergy for their paws. So we've been seeing a lot of allergic dogs this year. You're absolutely right. That's interesting, Kim. So it'll last about an hour, but it's in both eyes. Kim, did they also do tick testing? Did they do just some of the tick-borne like Lyme and Ehrlichia and things like that? Just out of curiosity, that might be something to check into too. Around here, it's really prevalent. I know obviously the ticks are all over, but that also might be something, again, easy to do with a little blood test. That might be something to check into. Thank you, Bethany. Yeah, absolutely. So reach out, okay? All right, Jen. So do you see a need for rabies in a 18-year-old 6-pound Yorkie? Has a heart murmur, stones, and a dental. So again, really good question, Jen. I think, it's something to have a really, serious conversation with the veterinarian about. It's rabies vaccines are the law. Okay, so I mean that's important to state, but I think this is something you want to talk very candidly with your veterinarian about, especially age, underlying issues, all that stuff. I think have to come into play, but you have to remember that it is and we're bound by law to say that, but it is something I think you want to have again, like I keep saying, you take the whole animal into account. You have to always do that with everything. All right, they're all individuals. So good question. All right, Debbie. My dog loves the product and I love watching you. Thank you. Our boy is having surgery in the next week or so to remove a large fatty deposit under his front leg. We are worried. He's 9. So you know what, Debbie? That's the thing. It's, large fatty deposit, probably a lipoma. All right. Lipomas are benign, fatty. They're actually an overgrowth of normal fat cells. So they usually are very, lipoma. They're the most common growth that we see as veterinarians. You get very used to feeling them. Usually they're soft, oftentimes they're movable, okay? And so do they all have to be removed? No. However, like you said, when they're in areas, they may start to impede with function of things, like in that axillary or armpit region, right, under the front leg. You want to remove them because then they can affect their quality of life, their ability to walk, and if they get big in an area, the bigger they get, the harder they are to remove. Okay, and those are interesting because sometimes when you go into those surgically, and I've removed a lot of them. When you go into them surgically, a lot of them are sometimes very encapsulated and they come up very quickly. Others, they are what's called friable, where you go in and they can break up or they're attached. You never know quite how easily they're going to come out until you're in there. But of course, there's always some anxiety, and it's natural for an owner to have some anxiety when a family member, and these guys, our pets are family members, right? So they're just an extension of everybody else in the family. And so when they're going to go under anesthesia, there's going to be some worry. And, what we as veterinarians do is we do everything we can to keep the risk as low as possible. Is there always some risk with anesthesia? Of course. But again, like I said before, it's what I do at my practice is, and all the veterinarians I know, what they do is you do everything to mitigate the risk. So the first thing is you do complete physicals with the animal. You do pre-anesthetic blood work to make sure their liver, their kidneys, and their core health is good. You pick a protocol for the anesthesia that is catered to the animal. What are you doing? How long are they going to be out? What do you need? So there's a lot that goes into that. And I think, like I said, the protocols have gotten so much better. And so while there is a risk, generally, a 9-year-old dog that's getting a lipoma removed, the vast majority do well. Okay, so all those things are important. You just have to make sure that you have good communication with the veterinarian and talk to them and let them know if you see anything at home that might worry you, that there's something going on with the animal. Give good history about how their health is, how they're doing, and again, have those conversations with them. What protocols are they using? How do they do it? Because I think it is really important. But that is always our goal, is to cater everything to the individual and do as safe a protocol as you can get. Oh, hey, Marianne, thanks for watching. Oh, that's great news, Marianne. So that's good. So you're going to check again in October. No, and yeah, this is a perfect example, Marianne, of again, of risk and reward. If they feel that it's not, if it's if they feel it's not cancerous, if they've done an aspirate of it, things like that, and they don't see cancerous cells, and it's not it's not impeding, it's not growing, and they feel that we have time to watch it, then that's good. I think you always have to weigh all those factors, right? That's good news, Marianne. I'm glad. Thanks for tuning in. You're welcome, Jen. And I said, yeah, I think you're right, and I know you know that, but I do firmly believe that you have that conversation about that. You have to take everything into account, and age, and that that's an advanced age, and with the underlying conditions, I think it's worth a conversation. Yeah, Kim. So I think again, and it's very possible it's not. I think that's great. I usually do, and again, a little different up here. I don't know how bad the ticks are in your immediate area, and I do love the Nature's Protection, absolutely, but. With any product, ticks can sneak through it sometimes, so ticks are really hardy. It's something that is probably worth just doing because it's not expensive, just to be sure, and it may be negative, but I think it's kind of one of those things where you try to leave no stone unturned and just kind of, and I know that you've been doing things, but it's one of the things that's easy to check, and so not bad, because sometimes that can be neurologic, and we do know that tick-borne diseases can cause kind of weird neurologic stuff sometimes, so I think it may be worth doing. You're welcome, Debbie. Thanks. Yeah, and Tammy, that is worth. So they do now over the last several years, right? And they didn't used to have this. They do. You can have rabies titers done in these areas. There's a rabies titer for export if they're going to be traveling, but there's also just a rabies titer that you can have done to look at the level of antibodies in their system. Okay, it's a good point. Two things to that. One is it is a few points. One is it is an expensive test. It is well over $200, I think, to get those titers. Just that takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get back. All right. The other thing is oftentimes if they have underlying conditions and you have a titer, you can get a dispensation from the state that says, okay, we don't require that they have we don't require that they have a rabies based on this and based on their underlying conditions. We don't, we can give them a dispensation for a year of having a rabies vaccine. The only downside to that is, and it's one of the things, is the law still doesn't recognize that, unfortunately. And look, I think those will be changing over, at some point. I think there's a lot of people trying to work on that, okay? And if they have a good titer, then they are likely, then I mean, that shows that they should have immunity to it. But they aren't, even if they have a titer, if they don't have a current vaccine, the state as a whole doesn't consider that, they consider them not vaccinated, just to let you know. So Gretchen, so clumps of hair that come out, right, no bald spots. What I always tell people is, I always tell people that I don't worry about a lot of hair coming off of animals if they're replenishing it and they don't have a thin coat and they don't have balding, because the way that our seasons are, especially up here right now, a lot of times I don't know if they we don't have these crisp seasons, and I think a lot of times these guys, their coats don't know whether when to shed, when to come in. So I think the shedding has become almost a year round. We don't have these times when they'll just they used to say blowing their coat, right, where they get all their undercoat comes out. You see it right at the season change, and all of a sudden you don't see it as much. So I don't think it's anything to be concerned about if their coat looks good, it's not thin, it's not, there's no bald spots. So I think that's all important. But no, I wouldn't, if the coat looks good, otherwise I would not be concerned. Yeah, that's a good point, Tammy, that they, some places will take that, and that's a good point. Good, Marianne. Thanks for, so 324, right. So I think some of the, I think it varies by lab, but it's definitely in the high 2s, low 3s where you get it done. All right. Oh, we're almost at an hour. That was great, guys. Thanks for all the questions. I really enjoy these weeks. I like kind of bouncing around and talking about different things. I think it's just interesting. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit. So again, next week we are going to be talking about kind of the anatomy on these guys, anatomy of an eater, right? What the kind of differences do we see in different types of animals? Cats, dogs, carnivores versus omnivores, that sort of thing, and talk about dentition and everything else. So you're welcome, Todd. Thanks for watching. So I think that's going to be. I'm excited about that show, and that'll kind of be a precursor to our talk down the road about the wisdom food as well. Okay. And the other thing is, if you guys can, you can also find this show. All right. And you can find the past shows that we've done on YouTube, on the Earth Animal YouTube. So if there's we've done a variety of topics. If you're kind of new to it, you can go back and watch some of those. And so I think it's there's a backlog now of several shows. So please go look at the Earth Animal YouTube and you can find some of the backlog shows there. All right. Thanks, Sue. So anyway, one of the other things that we do, right, as promised, is we do a quiz at the end of the show. Could be on any fact from the show. Today I usually obviously plan these because we know, because I know the subject matter, so I usually have it ready, and it's usually veterinary. Today I'm going to change gears a little because it is we did question and answer today, and I'm going to ask a non-veterinary quiz question today, all right, based on the song that we heard at the beginning, okay, actually the person we discussed in the beginning. So because it is the 25th anniversary of the passing of Jerry Garcia, the first person on our live stream that can tell me the date of Jerry Garcia's passing, 25 years ago, it's pretty close. First person to weigh in with that will get the $100 gift certificate to their favorite independent retailer, pet independent retailer, right? There's usually a delay with this, so we'll wait for that to come up, but at the same time, I think we'll play a little more Grateful Dead, I think, while we're waiting for that. This is one of my favorite Dead tunes, and hope you guys enjoy it. Hey, Angelo, thanks for watching. Thank you, Tammy, I appreciate it. D, you won. You're the first person to chime in. You got it. Sorry, Jen. D came in first, but good job. Sorry about throwing the curveball with the Jerry Garcia, but 25 years, it seems like, God, it goes fast. But anyway, everybody, good job, everybody. Good job on the questions today. I love the back and forth. It's great. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing different topics. And, the other thing, too, is certainly you can go onto Earth Animal Facebook and give some ideas of shows you'd like to see, right? Topics you'd like to cover. And, so everybody have a great weekend. I hope it's going to be nice where you are. Keep wearing masks. Keep social distancing. We're all the same team, right? All Earth Animals. Anyway, bye everybody, and see you next week.